Pardon? Not quite. Are we ready?
Yeah, we're good.
I got
Ready.
4 minutes and one.
Yeah.
Okay. This is the time for the Historic Landmark Commission to hold their meeting. We're meeting at City Hall. This is somewhere along like about August the 27th. I would like to have the staff I'm calling to order. I'd like to have the staff take care of a roll call of attendance.
Bob McNary. That's you.
That me? You'll have to speak up just a little. I've had another little problem in life, but that's life. Thank you.
Forrest Ercole.
Present.
Eric Gleason.
Here.
Victor Johnson.
Here.
Julie Reynolds. Here. Scott Randall.
Present.
And Tom Jimay is not.
Would you lead us today in the Pledge of Allegiance, Victor?
Sure. And who wants the band? Big flag?
Allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Thank you. Now, I have been in contact with the mayor, and I am a little confused on how he has this agenda set up, in the sense that down item 6 is election of officers, and I guess we'll continue with approving the agenda, and we'll approve the minutes of the last meeting, and then we'll progress into the election. Anybody else got any corrections to the agenda?
Nope. No.
Okay, we'll have a motion to that extent. The agenda has been approved. Everyone raise their hand and go. I understand that we're kind of working with a new person, so we'll help you get along the best we can. Okay, now we start the minutes of the June 25th, 2025. I hope everyone has had an opportunity to explore them and look for misprints or misspelling, miss anything. Would you make a motion to amend the minutes or approve them, or?
I think I spotted something. Were you weren't at the last one?
Wasn't present.
I think in the minutes it says that you were.
I
wasn't sure if you were on the Zoom. Maybe I missed it.
No,
He was not here. I seen that there, but we missed you.
Yeah, I missed the meeting.
But I suppose theoretically, we should have you listed as being absent. Anyone else? I'd entertain a motion to approve the minutes of the June 25th.
Don't need a second.
I'll make a motion to approve the minutes as amended.
Do I hear a second?
I can second.
Okay. All in favor, raise your right hand.
Aye. Aye.
Anyone opposed? We don't know who you are. All right, we got down to that election of officers right swiftly, and I left my conversation with the mayor kind of confused, but we had an election, if I remember right, in January.
Yes.
Yep.
What does the ordinance call for to have these elections?
Yeah, so the reason for this election of officers, Chair McNary, when you met with Mayor Mays, you mentioned stepping down from
Mr.
chair.
Tanner,
Yeah.
would you hold your voice up through your whole dialogue instead of falling off at the end, because I lose you when you fall off at the
Oh
end.
yeah, I can talk loud. So when you last met with Mayor Mays, the conversation was that you would be stepping down as the chair of the HLC. So we're bringing this forward as an election of officers to elect a new chair for the board. We do have a vice chair, but this does give us the opportunity where you could make a nomination for a chair. In this instance, you could probably also entertain the idea of if your vice chair wanted to become the chair, or if you nominated the vice chair to become the chair, you could probably re-elect the vice chair at that time as well. But that's why we're having the election of officers tonight. So specifically, this is for the chair, but if it's a reorganization, if Vice Chair Ercole moves up to the chair, like I say, you would probably fill your vice chair at that time as well.
Any questions? So I took the job in January, kind of reluctantly, because my health was deteriorating then, and it's gone the rest of the way. And I've offered to be available, and here I am. But it's time to move on for some reason, any reason. And the mayor's requesting it. I suppose that's one of the reasons. The mayor tells you you're not wanted anymore, you move on. What do you want, my speaker?
Yeah, just get it down.
Okay, sorry, I'm talking over myself. So do we want to open the meeting up to nomination for chair? And take it then that if I resign, then I can leave.
No, you still have to stay.
Well, I kind of confused here a little. If you understand what I'm saying. So, what is the feeling of the commission at this point? Do you want to open the election up and take nominations, or how about the other solution was just move the vice chair up?
I mean, it would be you would have to make the motion. Yep. So you would be, an individual would need to make, a nomination for the chair. That could be a nomination for the vice chair, but then that would vacate that position. So that I think it would be most appropriate to then nominate for a vice chair. So I think if vice chairs to come up, then I think you do need to fill their position as well.
Well, it hadn't helped me a lot on that decision. You people have got to help me.
Well, I'll say this is my second meeting, so I don't want anything to do with any positions of authority. So I think that leaves like two people here to be chair and vice chair. So
We have a fourth one. It's hard to keep track. Eric up there.
yeah, we got Eric.
Yeah, he's one of us also. He isn't sitting here, but
and
he's
we've got
up there.
Forrest. And
So
this-
we do have four.
but two of us are brand new, and you're on your way out. So
Isn't it traditional to nominate the person who's not here?
So Bob, yeah, got other
I
things.
think Eric had actually resigned as the chair at one point in time. Eric, you might correct me on that.
Yeah, I think I did as one point in time, a long time ago, but yeah, it seems like, I don't know, are you interested in becoming chair, Forrest?
I mean, I'm here. Yes, I'll do it.
I missed that
Um,
conversation, Eric.
Oh, so I asked Forrest whether he would move up to become chair, and he said yes. My thought is that perhaps we just have you guys like switch, have Forrest become chair and you become vice chair. Does that sound reasonable? Or is that something you'd be willing to do, Bob?
I will do it to the best of my ability, but we're already talking about limitations. And maybe I would be better off just being a member.
Okay.
And then if I wasn't here, the chair would not have to be it. However, the nominating committee wants to nominate, or however the committee here wants it. I will work as a vice chair. I hope that I'm going to live to be 100, and I'll get to attend all your funerals. But let's be realistic. So there's where I'm at. I will gladly take over as vice chair, and hope that the mayor seems to think this will work. And I said, wonderful, that this will revitalize this whole group, and we'll have applications after application after application. I'm willing to give it a shot. It's up to you. I will take the vice chair position. Will you take the chair?
I will.
Well, now, how do we do that
So
for the girl that's
I guess
keeping time?
I would like to make a motion to nominate Forrest to be chairman and Bob to be vice chair.
That's a very good motion. We need a second.
I can second that.
Okay, Victor has seconded it. Any further discussion along that line? If not, we'll all vote by raising a right hand and giving our lady over there a notation that we have voted on this. You happy there?
Aye.
Okay. How are you, Eric? I don't get to talk to you much.
I know. I'm
I don't
stuck
know
in a little.
What'd you find to stand in front of a bed sheet?
Yeah, kind of. There's a little old house in Crater Lake National Park, and we're all sharing a dorm room. So I'm in our dorm room on the bunk bed.
Okay. Good to see you there, even in your out
Yep.
there. Okay.
Yeah.
If we have that item on the agenda attended to, do you want to control the rest of the meeting there, Vice Chair, or do you want to leave me here to stumble along?
I think you should finish it off, what you started.
I didn't start it. I don't even know how many years I have been on this committee. It's been a long time. And I've seen some wonderful things, and I've seen some things that are kind of cheesy. So, all right. Public comment. Carolyn, you're the only one that holding down the seats. Can you come forward? And I think, is the mic on for the lady?
Really didn't say anything. I wanted to come and see what you guys do. Carolyn Wood, 1709 Liberty Way. Carolyn Wood, 1709 Liberty Way. But then I realized, oh, what an opportunity. This morning, we had a board meeting at the Discovery Center. And we've been meeting, but it's a very happy day. Yesterday, we did our soft opening, and we had the cruise ship was back yesterday and will be back tomorrow. They're in the process of washing a whole lot of windows, very, very high up. And they're going to be cleaning the floors, and we're in the process of installing a very exciting new exhibit that's they're calling, oh heck, a sense of space or sense of place, but that will be the new exhibit for some time to come. It's in the exhibit room where we most recently had the Lewis and Clark exhibit, which has been moved down to the hall on the Ernie Cuck Hall on the north side. Anyway, that is all coming. There's a big opening for that event on Saturday and I think some of you may have received invitations. If you did, you need to respond with an RSVP. It's about agriculture in Wasco County, but it is, I think everybody's going to be very pleasantly surprised with the quality and the quantity of the exhibit. The other thing I want to remind everyone is that on October 4th, we have our annual auction, and it's been an incredible summer, and I'm really pleased that everyone has been coming forth and has got that underway. We really haven't been out there to do very much. We've sort of been not physically locked out, but officially we were not supposed to be in the building until it got cleaned. So anyway, very good news from out there, and we were excited that it's going to be really spick and fan and clean. There's something else I was going to mention, and then I already. Oh, the other thing I just mentioned to Josh, and that picture reminded me. But in about 1989, when the transportation center was built, that was done by the Downtown Development Association. Some of you remember that. And I discovered, well, earlier, sometime in the past year, I just was given the picture book, which is about a 3-ring binder picture book that Pat May and her husband took of every step of the way in the construction of that building. And the one thing I wanted to remind you, and some of you may have already known this, that he had a railroad lantern collection, which is still in that building. I went down there and looked through the window and I can see them. There's a high shelf put around that front room that has those in it. And that was quite a unique collection of railroad lanterns that he makes note in the minute. And then I've also found the minutes to some of those meetings, which is another set of 3-ring binders of the Downtown Trade Center Association. But I just wanted to make sure that those don't get lost in the shuffle. I mean, as far as I'm concerned, they can stay right there. But I think they probably have some historic value because they are very historical. And I think most people have probably forgotten about where they came from and the fact they're still there. So anyway, then also there are books or 3-ring binders about all the names and all the bricks that are outside. And I right now cannot tell you. I know that the city had one. I know that there was one down there in that building, but I haven't seen it lately. But it's a page that just lists all the people who bought bricks for that. And that brick drive, in reading all this, that was worth $30 a brick that people paid. And that was one of the biggest fundraisers for that constructing that building. Barbara Honnold led that charge, and I would have forgot all this and probably knew it at the time, but reading through the minutes brought back a lot of recollections of what took place in the course of building that. It was also the year that I was running for state representative, so I wasn't directly every day in the office or around when all that work was being done. I mean, I was there for the dedication, but knowing, and a lot of that work did take place in our office, but not entirely. It was just one of many, but Harry Honnold did a lot. But anyway, I think those minutes would be of interest even to some of you to look through. I have I think I've counted 7 boxes of old, the records that they had through until about 97 when they closed down. They varied in activity, but they're the ones that got the first round of changing, getting the street lights put in on Second Street. And at that time also, the reason the lights on our corner around our building are the same as the ones at the transportation center, because John had the idea that we need to show what can be done in this town. And so they chose them for down there, and he took the same ones and put around the corner. And of course, when the city decided to do it, they went to a taller one, which I don't have a problem with that. But I mean, this is just local history. And since you're the landmark group and you're the historians, I thought I'd bring some of that up. You have any questions?
You said, Carolyn, you said that was the Downtown Development Commission was the,
Downtown Development. Well, they changed their name about 3 times. I mean, I forgot all that and followed it in the minutes. But they were Main Street.
okay.
They were the Main Street organization that was started. And I remember one year they had about $10,000 from the city, and one person was hired to sort of coordinate their activities. But then, they were supposed to be raising money to pay people, and they didn't come up with that. Yeah, there was another idea floated at the time, was like a downtown, they'd tax themselves, and things like that really didn't turn out to be very popular. I think Oregon City did that and made a big success out of it, but it's one of those self-starting things that didn't materialize to that extent, but as a volunteer group, they continued. There's also a note in there where Webb Peterson sent them a letter asking them to participate in the urban renewal process. So then some of them got involved in that process, which also was sort of, it started, I'm going to guess 93, 94. I know they spent a whole year working on the discussions about how to draw the lines. And then I think I was on council. I got on the council in January of 90 to 95. And so in that period, we voted on establishing all that process. But the group as volunteers, there were other projects that they took on. Like, in fact, the whole reason they built the downtown transportation center, because at that time, the railroad, Amtrak was stopping at a plexiglass shelter over here, which would now be the post office parking. And the the bus depot was out across from Spot or
Yeah.
S.
Point S, yeah.
And they just thought this was awful. These poor ladies were toting and this is before roller bags. So people were hauling their luggage in to get it off the bus. So they really wanted to get a bus depot, train depot, and then it took about a year to get the train to stop at that location, which they did until they discontinued. Anyway, that was just part of the history I've discovered, and there's more. I'm sure there's a lot more, but
May I ask you a question?
yeah.
I haven't seen them because I haven't looked hard. What happened to the electric buses that we were going to run? The last time I seen them, they were stored outdoors at the airport.
I am not familiar with how that turned out, but didn't they go and work they used them at the dam?
Yes, when they banned the railroad from crossing that little trestle out there on 15 Mile or whatever it is, they bought these buses back where east someplace. They were about 8-passenger electric buses.
I think they had,
And I just wonder, whoever got the ownership of, because they look kind of decrepit sitting at the airport, but maybe they'll get buried in the debris of the new municipal airport. I don't know.
I was not directly involved with those, so I really can't speak. They didn't work.
Did you say-
I mean, that was a part of the
In
problem.
your 3-ring binder, do you say there's photographs of people that worked on the transportation?
No, the 3-ring binder, I think, Josh, you guys have that now?
Okay.
The city manager might. I'm not too sure. I haven't seen it.
Okay, maybe I'm speaking out of turn because manager asked me. I knew about that project. And so I told him about the book and he told me he found it and he needed it for the. So, I mean, I think there's more to than the architectural influence, and that's why I wanted to talk about the lanterns. And I know this book now, I mean, it just should stay with the building. I don't want somebody else to end up passing it around to somebody that doesn't know what to do with it, because I knew what to do with it. I mean, I took it back to that building because, you know, anybody sitting around in there would find it, I would think, like me, interesting. So that's why it went back to that building. I mean, the city owns it, but I always know, you know, things get lost or buried in this, you know, and if the person, I mean, so anyway, that's why I took it back. And I think Matthew must have got it. Or he told me he found it. Oh, but it is, yeah. I mean, it was like, Pat walked around, you know, every night or day, even when people were in there working and when they weren't, and just took pictures of different parts of it.
Okay.
And then some people I could recognize. There were some people I did not recognize. And then clear through the ceremony. And I went back when I saw it, added some names to people or some Post-its of people I recognized. Anyway, I'm sure you would recognize some of the people in there.
I worked for Leco Electric and we did all the electrical in that building when it was built.
Well,
So
and
I'm
I'm
not,
sure that was one, and Brown Roofing did the roof. I don't remember who did the walls. And there was somebody that did a heck of a lot of pavers. I mean, there's just a lot of local business. Well, the one thing that I was not a part of and hadn't realized it happened is that the minute they got the approval from the planning commission, they set out letters to all the contractors, because, you know, building something and not asking them for bidders, you know, this was not going to be a bid thing. This was going to, they kind of they didn't do it the usual way, and it was all volunteer labor, but they put out a letter to all the local contractors asking them what they could donate. And so that's how they brought them all in. If they wanted to participate, they could, or not. So there's a considerable list of those people who were involved in it, which is more than what I got from just looking at the picture. Anyway.
thank you.
Thank you very much, Garland. Thank you. Anything else from public? Now, there's a presentation, whatever that is referring to.
First Street project.
Gold watch?
The First Street project.
Oh, okay. Now, Josh, don't bore us to tears. We have been through this. How many years ago did we go through this to approve it as the Landmark Commission?
Did not go in front of the Landmarks Commission.
You couldn't.
Nope.
Well, we approved this
Yeah.
plan
Yeah.
that had been scaled back now,
Yeah.
maybe much more practical.
Yeah, so this is a project and I appreciate everybody's comments. We provided some consultation letters to everyone. I appreciate everyone's comments, providing those comments. This did not go through the Historic Landmarks Commission. This is a right-of-way project. Typically, right-of-way projects do not go to the Historic Landmarks Commission. It would be like replacing a water pipe or repaving the road. Those are not projects that actually go to the Historic Landmarks Commission. So in any case, I wanted to bring this in front of you. This project's been around for quite a long time. We're getting closer to it actually happening. So it seemed right to bring this in front of the Historic Landmarks Commission. As I mentioned, this is not an application, but this is the same, providing some, additional background to this project for everyone. And let me start sharing my slides here. So the First Street project, this project's been around for many, many years. We are now carrying forward the legacy of everybody that's worked on this ahead of us. Tonight, we're going to walk through the story. We're going to cover, the legacy of First Street, the purpose and the urgency of this project, what's been accomplished to date, how we're addressing historic and archaeological considerations, a timeline, a budget, and how this ties into a broader vision for our downtown area. If anybody logged into our city council meeting on June or July 28th or urban renewal, this last urban renewal meeting, this was kind of a repeat from that. So these are the same slides that have been presented before. This information is also on the city's website. So the legacy of First Street, it was the original commercial corridor of the Dalles. There's many key sites on First Street, including the Getchell Waldron Drug Building, the Baldwin Saloon, the Block, Miller and Company Building. This is the Blue Building, which is now a brown building, but that's known as the Blue Building. The Wing Hong High Company Building, and the area of Chinatown. And then also the former location of the Umatilla House, which is the picture there on the bottom. The top is the Wing Hong High building. The building itself, infrastructure-wise, it actually contains one of the city's oldest water lines. The water line that is in the ground is actually older than the steam engine that is down in the Firehouse Museum downstairs. So I think it's a water line from 1875. Still works, but it is in need of upsizing and replacement. Excuse me, wrong way here. So the original grade of First Street was actually raised to prevent damages from frequent flooding. There was also fires that were very prevalent in the area in the beginning of the Dalles. As the commercial activity shifted to Second Street in the late 1800s, First Street really became the central location for the Chinese community. And our board member, Eric Gleason, has far more information than I do about the Chinese community here, but it is definitely the area that is known for our Chinese community. And by the 1960s, many of the buildings along First Street had either been demolished or destroyed by fire and never rebuilt. You still see some of those really prevalent ones that I listed earlier, but we also see areas where there used to be many buildings in those locations. Now we have, sunken parking lots or just parking lots themselves. So some project history. This project has been around, so, probably contemplated in some form for about 2 decades. Since its inception, the city's seen 24 different city councilors, 5 mayors, 5 community development directors, 3 city managers, 3 public works directors. The modern effort here of this project began with what was called the Dalles Riverfront Access Project. This is a project that had a very elaborate, Chair McNary, you were kind of discussing that earlier. It was a very elaborate project back in the day when it first started. The scope was from Union to Madison, It included a Washington Street plaza and rail freeway underpass. So basically, I'll show you a photo in a second, but there was basically it would have been Washington Street would have been no cars, and you would have dropped down and been able to go underneath both the rail and the freeway to what now would connect to the Riverfront Trail. So this work started with some initial phasing with David Evans and Associates back in 2006. We do have, as we were pulling up some records for an existing contract that the Urban Renewal Agency actually has with the Commodore building to use the parking lots. There was actually mention at that point of the First Street project. So really we're looking at probably around 2000, 2002 is really when, there was some movement towards this First Street project. In 2007, there was federal funds were secured. KPFF engineering was retained. And my apologies, I jumped ahead. I would like to introduce, he's on screen to assist us with any questions, Paul Schmidtke, who is the engineer for the project. My apologies, I should have introduced him earlier. Paul's going to kind of assist us. Paul's been part of this project for a while, but KPFF, the firm that he works with, has been familiar with this project for 20 plus years. There was some STIP funds, which is their State Transportation Improvement Program funds, which we secured for the project. And in 2009, there was a bond that was passed to assist in the development of this project. There was some, scoping changes, and to 2015, 2016, the STIP funds were returned. The scope was scaled back, but we still have this 2009 bond obligation that remains. So we do need to finish the project because those bonds, when it was voted in, those funds were going to be used for this project. So this is an initial sketch of really what it looked like. And my apologies, this is scanned in from years and years and Xeroxed over and over and over. But this was really like a visioning exercise. At that time, there was an advisory committee that assisted on this. I think Eric Gleason was part of that exercise back then. There were multiple different designs that they were looked at, and this is the one that was settled on. So this was going to be the vision of the First Street. And one of the key piece to that whole project, this is what we were talking about, the Washington Street underpass. Back when this project was being discussed in 2006, around that original scoping, there was at that time, the cost of the project was between $9 and $12 million. And if you can imagine $9 to $12 million in 2006, I can't even imagine what that would be nowadays. So even back then, it was an expensive project. And part of the reason it was scaled back to almost completely being halted this was one of the reasons this was a very expensive portion of that project. So the current conditions of First Street, if anybody's been around there lately, you'll see blighted conditions. There's ongoing deterioration. There's improvements. The improvements that the city had planned have basically halted in all these 20 years. Improvements have not moved forward because they were anticipating on this project completing that work. There's structural failures in the walls that are down there, in the sidewalks. There are public safety issues, ADA accessibility barriers. And it feels like, I was just out there earlier this week. There are really some just entire sections of sidewalks that are missing. So it's really becoming a growing safety issue out there. One section of the project that is very unique to this street is around the Baldwin Saloon. So there are hollow sidewalks around the Baldwin Saloon, and effectively a vault that is underneath those sidewalks. And you can see the area in the red is the vault. Both Paul and I have been under there numerous times. You can go underneath and you can look up, and it's basically that whole entire area is hollow. You can really raise your hand and touch the sidewalk on top, above you. If you go under there, you'll see what was erected at the time were basically, in a way, fashioned I-beams that are basically connecting from the building out to the sidewalk or the curb itself. They're corroding, they're rotting away, and the sidewalk is sinking. So a typical sidewalk, a typical curb is a 6-inch curb is a typical curb. The sidewalks are sinking so bad in this area that there are curbs that are entirely flush with the street. So if you go out and you look at the Baldwin, you might get kind of dizzy looking at it because the sidewalk is tilted so significantly from the edge of the building due to the basically rotting foundation that's underneath it. This area, as our team was looking at the overall design of this area required an additional wall design, an alternative design to the other aspects of the project. That alternative design resulted in additional project costs. I think at one point, the estimate for just this section alone is $1 million. One of the reasons that you may think, maybe a common thought, and I thought that when we first started is, we can just fill this void and do a basic compaction, and then we can, build your sidewalk on top of it, and you're not dealing with an elevated sidewalk anymore. But as you can see in here, it's hard to see, but I'll do my best. There's these little dots in here. That was the original thought, was just to fill this entire void. But we brought some geotechnical engineers into it, and even using a very light fill, they found out that it could be too much pressure pushing on the foundation of the Baldwin itself, therefore causing continued, basically building foundation failure in the future. So we are rebuilding this elevated sidewalk. So those dots in there are actually going to be piers that are driven into the ground right next to the building foundation, offset so much, and then from there you will rebuild and have a bridge that goes on top of it. We call it a bridge, but it's really just a covered area, and we are basically rebuilding these elevated sidewalks. So these are some of the photos just taken a couple months ago. As you can see here, there is a big pit here that is forming. It's due to deteriorating walls. These are all real clear tripping hazards here. This is the corner of an intersection, years and years and years of driving over and just basic deterioration. I show these two things. Photo doesn't really do them justice, but I talked about, for reference, there's a standard 6-inch curb. This right here is about 16 inches, I'd say. 16, 12 to 18 inches maybe. And then right here, that's that curb that is entirely flush with the street. So from the building's edge down to here, there's a massive slope because this whole entire sidewalk is basically the edge of this sidewalk was sitting on a foundation that is then placed onto a wall underneath the ground. That is entirely failing, which is resulting in the sidewalk sinking in. Not to make it sound too apocalyptic or anything. I know people aren't supposed to drive on sidewalks. Crazy things do happen. This is one of those things that in the event a heavy machinery were to come onto this sidewalk, there's liability issues of overall failure. The walls, we'll talk some more about the walls, and I'm sure there's going to be a lot of questions about the walls. I've talked about these walls. Paul and I have discussed these walls for probably a good portion of the past 18 months, 2 years. We've had a lot of lively conversations with Eric. Eric, we do appreciate all the comments to date and guiding us through and this whole entire project. This is a sensitive section. This is a sensitive portion of this project, and I understand that that's not lost on us, and we will get more into that. But this is showing pictures of just 3 sections, but you can go all over and see sections of the walls that are cracking. So there's some significant cracking here. There's walls there's walls in 2 separate blocks of our second. We have these sunken parking lots. They're failing in various different levels. There's cracks all throughout this photo, cracks through this photo. As a result of this failing wall, you see this crack here. That's the sidewalk up above the foundation. There's a foundation here. The sidewalks are failing because the walls underneath them are not holding the support of the sidewalks. So some project history, that shows the conditions. Now we'll jump into project history. So in 2022, there was a little bit of a shift on this project. As we started to see some of the scoping changes occurring, there was this need to really reanalyze the project. And in 2022, the city and ODOT mutually ended an agreement that we'd had going for, pushing 15 years. This was really, like I said, mutually ended. We ended on great terms, and it was really just something that ODOT felt. We both thought it would be better for us to part ways because it would be easier to complete the project without the two of them. Without, both agencies working together. And in a way, it was a bit of a blessing looking at, I'm sure everybody's seen the news with ODOT recently. Many projects are being halted. Many positions are being unfilled or terminated altogether. So there's a lot of projects at the ODOT level throughout the state that are going to start being on hold for much, much longer. So the cost impact from actually ending this agreement, it was an $820,000 savings to the city. And this was even after we paid back $320,000 of grant funds that we had already spent on the project. So it was still that savings. After terminating it, as I mentioned, it was a mutual termination. ODOT even granted a waiver so that we didn't have to pay those expenditures back. The project was reset under local control. ODOT was no longer involved and no longer subject to federal requirements. And then in 2023, the city contracted once again with KPFF for a new project scope, about $500,000. This is when we kind of keyed the term, the first street project. And this is scoping down from Union to Laughlin Street. This is a project scope, or this is the project overlay. This design was put together by Walker Macy Landscape Architects. Walker Macy is the consultant that the city is working on to prepare the plans for the Federal Street project. So most of the plans that have been prepared to date had all been engineered specs. And I know there was more and more interest as we were getting closer for this project to actually happen. There was a need to really show you maybe some of the visuals so people could actually visualize what we're talking about. Unless you're staring at engineered plans all day long, it's a little difficult to understand what they look like. So this kind of provides a better scope of basically the entire overlay of the project. These are some side views of what the street is going to look like. So this is your block. You look at the different blocks, the different names of where they're at, and you can see kind of the breakdown between, your sidewalks, your landscaping. Parking is shifting, as everybody probably knows. Parking is actually right now on the northern side. Now parking is going to be on the southern side. And what this is going to do, this is going to create an opportunity that the travel lane is going to stay the same way. It's going to continue to be eastward. But then there's also going to be a bike lane that is installed, and the bike lane is going to be heading west. So what you get is you will have something called a sharrow in that travel lane, and a sharrow is effectively a fancy way to say that it's a bike lane and a vehicular lane all going in the same direction. So we will have bike lanes. There will be some landscaping out there, some tree wells installed. Then here in Federal Laughlin, it shifts a little bit because we have the old Petty John storage building, which is now the Hub building. Really cool building with all the awesome murals around it. There was, effectively a pinch point in the right of way, so it had to be a different design altogether. So it is, you see, there is not landscaping in that one block there. Part of the reason the scope doesn't go any further past Laughlin is because there is yet another pinch point in the road. So there's actually a road or a building historically that was built kind of closer out into the right of way. So there's this major pinch point, and we couldn't continue the design any further. These are some neat renderings that show on the left the existing and on the right the proposed to kind of give you an idea. This is the intersection of Court and First Street. And then also another one at Washington and First Street. So current progress, as there is ongoing archaeological coordination with SHPO. We have submitted our, thank you once again for the comments that were provided from the board members. We've submitted our memorandum of agreement to them, and it's currently under review. That memorandum of agreement touches on the mitigation steps that we are going to take as a result of some impacts to this project that are as a result of this project. I'll get into that some more here in just a little bit. We're completing right-of-way and easement acquisitions. That is actually, since this project or since the slide was created, that is actually complete. So basically what that is the project is requiring that we go onto properties to be able to access, to build the walls, to do various different things. So we needed to purchase easements for every single one of the properties that we'll be touching. So that was a multi-month process. We just finalized that just this week. We're also finalizing coordination with the railroad. The railroad, if anybody's worked with the railroad, they know it's a difficult process. It's a long process. It's a difficult process. What's unique about First Street is we actually tried working with the railroad in the very beginning to do a land swap, because First Street, there's portions of First Street and portions of the railroad that are owned by the other agency. So there's portions of First Street that are owned by the railroad, and then there's portions of the railroad that are owned by the city of the Dalles. We tried to do a land swap to clean everything up, come back after many, many months, come to find out that the railroad was not interested in doing that land swap. However, they do not have an objection to the process moving forward. There are certain standards that the railroad has when these type of acquisitions come up. There's X amount of feet from a rail line. They are not interested in selling or getting rid of property if you're X amount of feet from an active rail line. So that's what it came out to be. We are updating and finalizing the plans with recent input from the Federal Street Plaza. So there's going to be some intersection with the Federal Street Plaza. Federal Street Plaza compared to the First Street project, they're on two very different timelines. First Street project has taken 20 some years. Federal Street Plaza is going very, very fast. So we needed to make sure that the plans for the Federal Street Plaza, the engineered plans, and the plans for the First Street, so they can incorporate together. So there's we're trying to reduce the amount of change orders and issues in the future in the event that we have two contractors doing the two different projects. So archaeological. This area is borders 4 designated archaeological zones. You can see them in the red here. And of course, the area in yellow is our project scope. Through the work, the many, many months and years of work, we submitted an application to the state stating that this is an adverse effect to historic resources. We understand the removal of the walls. These walls have been there for a very, very long time. We understand that that'll have a significant effect on a built environment within a historic district. We met with SHPO in June 2025, walked through the site with them, and have been coordinating with them, as I mentioned, with this memorandum of agreement or memorandum of understanding for mitigation coordination steps that will be taken. And some of those include, apologies here, got a freeze in here. One second. Oh, can you share that screen? Because this isn't. I got kicked out of Zoom. So, or my, is there like a full screen thing?
Want to sing a little bit, Julie?
Thank you.
Yeah, sure. The one that you have highlighted. Yeah, there you go. And then you'll probably just need to advance it for me. All right, apologies, everybody. I do not know what happened. My computer seems to be freezing up on me. So, and then next slide, please. So the mitigation steps that we'll be taking, and once again, we have to thank Eric for his contributions here. He's met with our team out on site. We walked through some of these, and I think actually in the end, there's some really neat elements that we are going to be preserving out there that are actually going to make the project very unique. One of those being up in the right-hand corner, you see, you've probably been out there, there is a metal door that is in the sidewalk. What we are going to be doing here is removing this door entirely, repaving a brand new sidewalk, installing everything, and then we're going to have a portion where that can just lay back into the planter strip. So it's going to have enough spacing on it that's going to allow us to maintain ADA spacing on the outside of it, and it'll be in the planter strip, so it's effectively in an area where pedestrians won't frequently be using it. So we can reuse history there by still maintaining our ADA compliance. There's also a building facade. The picture right underneath that, there is the remnants of a building that will be retained and protected throughout this project. We will touch some more about the walls. There's gabion walls that are going to be installed, and those are going to be installed using the front face of them is going to be using a basalt rock. Typically it wouldn't be a typical application to use basalt, but we are going to be using basalt because the walls out there are basalt rocks. There's also some interpretive signage that we'll be putting up with the optional, an option to look at a QR code. I know technology is pretty fast and always moving, so we definitely want to put something up there that can be used for many, many years. But the idea there is that there's going to be some signage. People can go there, snap a shot, and be taken to a website dedicated to the project itself, as well as Chinatown. And then the Chinese name for the Dalles will also be stamped into the sidewalk in 3 to 4 different places. Next slide, please. So the walls, these walls will be removed. There was a 2021 structural analysis report that recommended the removal of these walls. These walls are located, I'll show you a map in a second. Multiple options were considered, but the decision back in 2020, I believe, or 2021, was that we would be moving forward with gabion walls. Gabion walls, the design was modified a bit. It's going to be, as I mentioned, there's going to be basically gabion walls or baskets of rock. The front half of it's going to be basalt. The back half of it's going to be just a typical rock that's included in gabion, because those will actually be hidden behind everything. So for aesthetic value, you will see the basalt. Next slide, please. So the area in red is the area where walls will be replaced. So these are, you could say that these are our sunken parking lots. That's kind of what I talked to them about, or what I mentioned to people. The difference here is that at the Baldwin, that area, they will be removed, but at the Baldwin, they'll be entirely hidden. No, but you won't see them because they will be in that vaulted area. Next slide. This is one photo of a gabion wall. They are used all over, I think, the southwestern portion of the United States. Las Vegas uses quite a bit of gabion walls, not on the strip by any means, but down in, kind of the freeway area, as you see gabion walls a lot down in those areas. So this is this is an engineered plan looking at the side. So this is the sidewalk area, and this is the sidewalk area. So this is our sunken parking lot, and these are the baskets. These are the walls themselves. So there's going to be a little portion in the front that's going to be basalt. Behind that, it's just going to be your typical structural rock. Next slide, please. So cost estimates. At this point, the subtotal is about $6 million. And there's some additional costs that are still needing to be factored into this, and there's a little bit of fluctuation there on them. But when you factor in those additional costs, you're sitting at $6.92 million. Every year we're seeing a cost increase and a 5% increase from 2024. Budgeted funds at this point, the city over the years has budgeted funds for this project. There's a fund, our Fund 18, which is our fund for, special grants that come in and things of that nature. In Fund 18, there's $3.5 million budgeted. And then the Urban Renewal Agency has $3.2 million budgeted. We understand that is a deficit, or there's a discrepancy there. Once we find out the actual total of the project, we will be going back to the agency, and there may be the need to add additional money to the project. And to date, we've talked about all the scoping, all the different changes. $1.5 million estimated that we've spent so far on this project, and we haven't even put a shovel into the ground. Next slide. Timeline, where we're looking at our final documents, our final construction documents very, very soon. Actually, we're expecting those to be complete by next week. Our bidding and award process is going to happen this fall. My hope is to award by the end of this year. The construction start is going to be winter, at some point in the winter to the spring. Then the project is intended on lasting for an entire year. And also we add in here the timeline of the Federal Street Plaza construction. That's going to be happening between spring and fall of next year. We will also be having an open house coming in October for the downtown community. Anybody that's really coming in and out of downtown would be interested in going to this. It's going to be really focused. There's been enough, there's been this presentations in front of council, in front of the board, also some presentations and, a lot for the Federal Street Plaza. But this is really going to be a focus on the impact to our downtown area when it comes to parking and traffic. Our goal here at this point, we will be closing First Street for the entire life of the project. So we have coordinated with the Chamber of Commerce. They are moving the location of the Cherry Festival for this next year. That's still undetermined where exactly it's going to be. It will be in the downtown area from what I hear. And also we've coordinated with Pacific Coast Producers, who's the cherry growers, to ensure they do use First Street quite often to move, for one facility to the next. They are aware and they are working on alternate plans, but it seems like it's going to be an easy fix for them. So there's going to be a lot of construction happening downtown over the next, really starting at the beginning of the year, probably for about a year and a half, I would imagine. There's also another project that's going to be happening out on First Street. There's a replacement of some utility lines out there. So we're trying to coordinate, making sure that we can still move traffic, move people, and making sure that there's not that much of an impact to our guests that are coming in off of the tour boats as well. Next slide. And so this was a presentation that was put together for the Urban Renewal Agency a few months ago as we were talking about the First Street project. This is so over the years, as I talked about in the beginning, the First Street project is kind of taking on a legacy of work that has been done. As I mentioned, I'm the 5th community development director, and hopefully I'll be the one that brings it across the finish line. But all the work of everybody that's been involved, it's really got to pay my respects to all of them. Honestly, there's a lot of work that's gone into it, and the goal was always this connection to the river, this longing connection to the river, and we've made significant investments in our downtown area that you can see on this screen. We have a maritime terminal, we have this undercrossing, Lewis and Clark Park. And then kind of looking at the different the streetscaping work that has been done there in blue. There's the, First Street project is what's in red. But when you look at it as a whole, there's a lot of work that has been done to connect the community to our river. And this is another piece that is going to kind of connect those dots, especially in the First Street area. Next slide. So some recent investments out on First Street. I think everybody's familiar with the Light Capsule project. Very cool project, which is casting light onto changing 3 different historic signs that change. I think you all are very familiar with it. This was presented to you probably about 18 months ago, 2 years ago. Still a very cool project. The Tony's building site, the Urban Renewal Agency is working to see that site redeveloped. The First Street parking lots, those were recently completed. There's a picture of those there on the bottom. The First Street parking lots are owned by the Urban Renewal Agency. The work there was also completed with a archaeological permit with SHPO. And then the Federal Street Plaza, which we've discussed before. I think the next slide, this is the Federal Street Plaza from the design from a couple months ago. I think there's going to be some additional revisions to this before it's finalized. And next slide. This really is a final slide. There's a lot going on with the First Street project. It's the end of a 2 decades of work. The goal here is, deliver on the Urban Renewal Agency's mission to eliminate blight and boost property values. It completes a key major project before the district. The agency's district sunsets in 2029. It honors our bond obligations and builds on funds that we've already invested. It avoids future cost increases with acting now, and capitalize on a decades-old vision of downtown revitalization and riverfront access. And with that, I am happy to answer any questions.
So Josh, just to be clear, the parking like behind Federal Street in Washington, all those businesses, all that parking is going to be unavailable for the 1.5 years during construction?
No, so what we're doing there is we're actually going to be modifying the parking lots themselves. So what we're going to do is we're actually going to be taking out, there's the landscaping islands.
Yeah.
We're going to cut a chunk out of those landscaping islands so that we can close First Street and still move people within the parking lot. There's probably going to be some restriping that's done. It's going to be a temporary fix, but great question, because we do know there's going to be significant impacts to parking. So with that one, with closing First Street, we do need to make some modifications to that lot.
Thank you.
You bet.
Sometime back, we was involved with the demolition of the old column. I can't think of what we called it. And there was a lot of basalt rock removed from that and put in storage. Are you aware of any of that?
I'm not.
I don't know where storage is.
Yeah.
But when they tore the thing down to build the new swimming pool, you know which one I'm talking about.
Yep.
They were going to salvage that stone. Some of it was not a good grade of stone, but the lower half, that was one of the reasons they stopped construction where they was at, was the fact that they were going to have to change grades of stone, and it wasn't no. But nevertheless, that was supposedly saved somewhere
Hmm.
in the cities. I don't think it's in your filing cabinet.
I don't think so. I've looked.
But it's somewhere. And that would be a place to utilize it.
Yeah, thank you. I will definitely take a look at that. I appreciate that.
I don't all wrong, but it's stone. So anyone else have a question here? Go ahead, Victor. I'm gonna use your name so I remember.
Yeah. On the First Street diagram, it says protected bike lanes, but it doesn't look like there's any vertical separation or anything there. Is it really protected bike lane?
I'll kick that over to Paul. Paul, on the on the bike lanes.
Protected by what?
So on the diagram when it shows where it shows like the side view and stuff like that, it's labeled protected bike lane, but a
Oh.
protected bike lane has a vertical element to it. There's actual physical separation from a car and a bike lane, but it doesn't show that in the diagram. So is it or is it not a protected bike lane?
There is striping, but there is no vertical.
Okay, so it's
structure.
it's not a protected bike lane. Okay. I wonder why that is. Is that just money? I mean, we know a protected bike lane prevents car or bicycle accidents 50 to 90%, and we're encouraging alternative transportation. I wonder why is there not a protected bike lane there?
Yeah, that's definitely a good question. I'd have to look back on the previous decisions that were made on why that wasn't a protected bike lane. I'm looking through the plans right now. I'd like to pull up the
Take your time.
striping.
I would just think that would be a huge mistake if we're the terminus of the scenic bike route coming from Portland. And we're trying to get people off the bike route into our downtown. One reason people don't ride bikes is because they don't feel safe. So
Yeah.
that seems like it'd be a crucial element to have in this plan. I know it's like at 100%, but still,
The
that's
bike's going the opposite direction from the car, right?
it seems that way. Yeah.
But they're going west, you said.
Up there.
So
It
there's
seems
a
like. Go ahead.
yeah. So there is I think about a 2-foot painted stripe that does separate the Sharrow, which is heading to the east, which the Sharrow is the vehicular and bike together, and then there's the bike lane that is heading west that is separated by that 2 feet of paint. I'd have to look back in our notes on why a protected bike lane either was rejected or just maybe not discussed.
Yeah, it seemed like that's like really important. And if we're dropping $7 million or whatever, that seems like that should be part of the plan.
Yeah, I'll make a note.
Julie, you got anything that you want to ask at this point? You've been kind of quiet.
I'm just listening. You work with SHPO. Is that Joyce Sears that you're working with?
Not on this project. Yeah, we've been working with Kirsten Lopez, John Pauly. Was spacing on 2 other names. Yeah.
Different areas of expertise.
Yeah,
then?
they do.
Sure.
Yep,
Okay.
very much. And they are actually they're kind of dealing with some of the staffing issues too. They had an individual that was actually working on one of the projects. I'd been working with her for, I don't know, probably 2 years, and they announced that her position, they're not going to be filling it. So they let us know that there's hopefully not going to be a lot of delays, but there will be some to overall reviews of projects around the state.
I'm going to ask the real important question for the people. How are they going to be able to assess the value of what we're spending on revamping that whole area? The people in the city of the Dalles, are they we supposed to run down there and have a glass of wine, or how do we enjoy what we're buying?
Yeah, great question. I mean, I think one way to enjoy it is looking at the conditions now compared to what we intend on redeveloping. I think it's difficult at this stage I mean, it's a difficult question. I mean, putting a numerical value on the investment. This project, I mean, I'll be blunt, this project's taken a long time and it probably shouldn't be so expensive, but it's taken so long. And that is why, and the complexities of the project, there's a lot going into it. I think in previous conversations I've had, I don't know if it was with KPFF or somebody else, but $1.5 million spent so far on a project that's only 4 blocks long is very, very high. So you factor that into the project itself. So I didn't really answer your question very well, but I think the overall goal, with the Urban Renewal Agency is to remove blight and, public improvements, roadway improvements is one way to remove blight. And that is definitely with the disinvestment in the road for so many years. It's probably an overpaid project, but at this point, it's every year it's just going to start getting more and more expensive, and it's time to act now to get it taken care of.
I would say conceptually, it's also a way to reconnect to the riverfront, and with a Phillips Street Plaza, and then linking to the underpass. That kind of hard to put a price on that, but I think that's something that the community values.
The underpass, when they approached us with it years ago, was really a dream in the future. Union Pacific was going to fight that sucker every inch of the way. They didn't want to interrupt their train system. And we had no calculations at that time, and we're not getting too much of an answer today. And I'm not picking on you, Josh. I want you to know that.
It's all good.
What people are going to ask us if we get our name on it. What did you do to help my day? What did you do to make my day 1 penny more profitable than it was the day before? We get all kinds of questions like this on the murals when we put them up. They were wonderful, and they found out it was all donated to get them up, but yet the jury is still out. Who's maintaining them? Who's going to reach in their pocket to maintain them? And that's going to come up with this project. I will not be here to see it, but that's what it's going to come up with this project. And I've got a double-edged sword here. I'm an old construction worker. You're making a job for a construction man. Give him to him, let him go, have a grand time. But yet the guy standing over on the side wondering where he's going to buy his next loaf of bread is wondering why my federal money or my state money or my city money is being wasted there, or spent there, I should say. I'm just asking a question. How we answer it to Joe Doe when you start tearing up that, what are they looking for down there? What do they figure that it's going to bring into the community? I think the Granada has been a good investment. I don't think there's been anything wrong with that, but in the long term. But it took a lot of faith and a lot of time before it ever really reached the point where people are content that something's happening there. Will the same thing happen with this project? I hope so.
Yeah, and I mean, I know that people are buzzing by at 65, 70 miles an hour, but this is what you see when you pass the Dalles. And I know people probably don't have their binoculars on when they're driving to look at all the fine details, but it's in pretty rough shape, and this is an opportunity to put our best face forward to that, and hopefully you can invite more people to come and stay, just to passing from Portland to Pendleton, stopping into the Dalles to get a sandwich, because this looks kind of neat. Myself, I'm in the field, I'm in the business, so I'm attracted to streetscapes and things like that. I'm drawn to these, attractive looking streetscapes, but that's just me personally. I do think there's other people out there that they see that a community's put investment into something. The community cares. The community wants to see things thrive, and businesses appreciate it. So
I think it'll also be nicer for Cherry Fest too, because it looks dilapidated over there when you go to Cherry Fest, and
Yeah.
having that all spruced up would be very nice.
I have a question about the old water line that's going to be replaced. Does it run along First Street? Or
it does.
Okay,
Yeah.
so that's a real reason to do part of the project, is to get that up to date.
Um,
Wooden?
I do not think it's wooden.
Okay.
And another opportunity is, we talk a lot about the ability to redevelop First Street. Some of the vacant lots that we have down there. The Chinatown block has it's just going to be difficult to redevelop because it's so significant. Like I said, we repaved a parking lot up there, and it required a SHPO permit just to repave the parking lot. And we were just peeling back the asphalt and replacing it, still required a permit. I think redeveloping that block will be extremely difficult. But, for instance, there is the ability to redevelop. I know there's been discussions to redevelop along First Street. And one of the things that we're going to be doing with that water line too is we're going to be increasing the size of the water line. So
You know what size it is now?
it's 8 and it's going to be a 12-inch. Yeah.
I'd like to answer your question a little bit too, I think, Bob. I agree with Scott that, one way you could describe the Dalles is it's a river city cut off from the river. It's like that was how everything got here, and I don't know how we blew it so badly and let them just cut us off from the river with I-84. But this is a great way to reconnect with the river, and I think, to be just a little bit crude, Mark Leinbarger always described it the best way, that the Dalles always shows its ass to the audience. People driving by on the freeway, they see the worst of us with the back of the buildings, and so it's really going to be a much more inviting place. And if we get back to talking about bicycles, I know when I was at the Alternative Transportation Summit, they were saying, like the typical cycling tourist will spend like $58 when they show up. If you get them to spend the night, it's $200. This is a great way to bring some really low impact tourism to the Dalles. And I'm not about making the Dalles a big tourist town. Everybody knows that. We've got to find some balance. But that can be a significant way to bring people in the Dalles. And the state of Oregon's already put like $30 million building a road right to us, right? Yeah. They've done all the hard work. So all we have to do is just capitalize on stuff like that. So I think, our identity, our sense of kind of pride. When I was on the Blue Zones built environment, we were doing these big surveys, and the most important thing to people was what we called then the front porch idea, which is that whole First Street area where people are driving by. And I think people from here are tired of looking so shabby from the front. So I think there's a lot of potential if it's managed right. So I appreciate all the work you guys have done, especially like with the railroads and stuff. I've had to deal with those guys on a couple things, and it can be really, really daunting at times. They don't seem to be very reasonable, and they seem to act as if they're their own country and they can do whatever they want at times. But
the 800-pound gorilla.
They are, yeah. So, clearly we've hashed out the walls. No sense to beat that horse to death. I mean, it makes me sad that they can't be saved, and I just believe maybe naively they could have been if that was the intention from the very beginning. If someone says, we're doing this project and we're saving the walls, it could have been done. But like you say, 20 years, 5 directors, can't go back in time. So, I think it's an exciting project, the way it ties in with the plaza and things that have already been done. Yeah, I think, I appreciate all the work you guys have done. So
Thank you.
Victor mentioning walls made me think, is it Gabion wall? Is that how you
Yeah.
pronounce it? Gabion, are those long lasting? Because you mentioned they're prevalent in the Southwest and I've seen them all over, but that's usually a drier climate. And I'm just curious, with our rain and snow, is that an issue? Was it just decorative? Will it hold up?
I mean, I mentioned the Southwest, but they are used, significantly around various infrastructure projects. I know just recently the waterfront. I don't know if anybody's been to the Vancouver waterfront, which was a significant change. Vancouver had kind of showing your behind to the river. Vancouver was an area that has all their industry was right on the water, and they spent a significant amount of money redeveloping the area, and they've used a lot of Gabion walls and a lot of the basically their infrastructure down there. Paul, you may be able to comment on it further, but I do know that you do see examples of it. I just mentioned the Southwest because I know a lot of the pictures I pulled were from there,
Okay.
but yeah, otherwise, like locally, the city of Vancouver, I've seen it used a lot.
Yeah, they're used all over the state of Oregon, and they should hold up as well as any other wall. Not being a structural engineer, but yeah.
The waterfront medical building has them all along the front, and that's been along there for quite a while, and it's right on the river.
Okay.
Thank you.
Well,
Eric's got his hand up.
pardon? Oh, Eric, I keep losing you up there. Speak
Yeah.
up, Eric.
Okay, I guess want to make it maybe just a few comments. Probably ones that I've made in the past, but just to get things kind of on the record. As Josh had said, I was kind of involved in this project from 2006 or whatever, when we had the Citizens Advisory Committee. At some point, the city kind of went astray on this job, at least in my opinion, when they kind of strayed from that model, the model that they were using on the Federal Street project, and the model that they started using on this one, where they get public involvement and public comment from a committee. And they use that to kind of steer the design and steer the process. And that got lost at some point. And I think this project has kind of suffered from that loss. And I think, what you see is the first kind of real impact of that loss is the 2021 decision to go with the Gabion baskets without any kind of consultation from Landmarks Commission or from a public advisory committee or from the Urban Renewal Agency. We just kind of made and I think that's kind of where it started to go wrong, as Victor said, some of those decisions made early on, which probably could have steered this to a better end, didn't really happen. I guess, and as far as not going before Landmarks Commission, I realized that this kind of started out as a right-of-way project, but, clearly even starting in 2016, it was beyond that. We knew that it was going to extend beyond just the right-of-way of the street into the walls and stuff. And at that point, the archaeological sites had been identified and the walls had been listed or identified as contributing elements to the National Register Historic District. So that should have sent out some alarm bells that we need to work with the Landmarks Commission on that. And that didn't really happen. And I don't really understand why, because, typically Landmarks reviews all kinds of things, signs and fences and all of those kind of things. And you'd think that a project that destroys contributing elements to the historic district would have been brought before the Landmarks Commission just as routine. And then, when I think about that, though, I think about kind of that decision that was made to replace the walls with Gabion baskets. And then I think about the process And what the ordinance requires the Landmarks Commission to do is to evaluate these changes in relationship to the Secretary of Interior standards. And, you know, it doesn't seem to me that gabion baskets kind of fit anything within the Secretary of the Interior standards. They might be fine, you know, in new development or in areas where they aren't replacing historic rock walls, because it's not a replacement in kind. A replacement in kind would be replacing these deteriorated stone walls with stone walls, not with gaping basket walls. I do appreciate that the effort's been made to make them a little bit more compatible with the basalt facing, but still, you know, the interior.
No.
Got off on a. Did I lose you, Eric?
You froze up
just-
there.
I'm just kind of sad to see those walls go, and I'm sad to see the archaeological sites impacted, because all of those things are never going to be replaced. They're irreplaceable parts of our past. And that's it for me.
Thank you, Eric.
Are
Next.
the facing though, you won't see the gabion basket, right?
You
There'll
will.
be basalt over the front?
No, you're going to see the
It's-
basket.
Eh,
The salt would be behind the basket, like in the one image that they showed.
okay, I didn't understand that part. I thought,
And will the wall rock be used in the gabion baskets, or will it be salvaged in some other way?
It'll be salvaged in some other way. The way that the walls out there are built is they're built in, you know, many different phases. There's dry stack, there's the rock that has mortar in between it, and then there's also kind of a newer design that was like in the 60s, which is on the more western block. The ability to save it and, you know, peel off the mortar or whatever the case may be to try to get it to look, I mean, you could reuse it, but then you also may have rock with chunks of mortar on it, and really how uniform is that going to look? So yeah, at this point there wouldn't be, but there would be an opportunity for the city to salvage it or auction it or, you know, donate it someplace like that.
Stonemason would probably call those field stone now, in the sense that they're multicolored.
Hmm.
And he calls it field stone, or your gabions are going to be probably mismatched for color also, but I don't know that. We'll see. I'm sorry I missed you up there, Eric, but you did fine. Any further comments from anyone? Scott, we've enjoyed your company.
Thank you.
We hope you come back to us.
Oh,
I will ask Sandy. Could ask Josh, but I'll ask Sandy because she's been very quiet. You have something scheduled for us for September?
Maybe. I have a question for the commission.
Well, we'll take the question first.
It's kind of a polling question. I was going to send you an email, but decided why not do it tonight because we're here. In the code, under minor alterations, there's options for minor alterations to be approved by the director. And it lists several of them, such as repainting original colors on designated resources, painting of non-contributing resources within a district, exterior repairs of an emergency nature, such as gutters and roofing. There's others, but it doesn't list it out. Fencing or other exterior landscape alteration, sign installation or removal, and then other alterations specified by the commission. I have a property owner that owns a home in the Trevitz Edition. It's a non-eligible and non-contributing resource. It's multifamily. The home has experienced a lot of alterations through the years. It still has its siding and the roof massing and whatnot, but with the alterations that have taken place, the resemblance of anything historic visually are not there. With that said, the property owner wants to replace some deteriorating decks on the deck on the front and on the back, and the stairs and the railing. And I'm trying to find out if you think that that would fall under a minor alteration, replace like for like, as close as possible to what's there. It's wood. There's thinking using the wood that they mentioned. I can't find it now. Design and dimensions would all, oh, cedar. They want to use cedar, which is historically appropriate.
Is it on Liberty Street?
Yes.
The
I just don't want to divulge that now because they do have an application in, and I'm trying to poll the commission to see if this would fall under other alterations specified by the commission that we could process as a minor alteration, or is it something you would want to see? They're concerned about some safety with these decks and the railing, and would like to get some repairs completed before the weather changes potentially. There is some exterior siding replacement going on that is okay to do under a minor alteration, and some painting. But that's it. So depending on how you feel about it, we could either bring it before the board on September 24th, or let them know that it could fall under the minor alteration option and let them move forward. Kind of a lot to digest. But I would like to see how you feel about that.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Gosh, you're just waiting to tell us when we're gonna meet. Are we or aren't we in September?
I think that's what Sandy was referencing. And Board Member Gleason, any thoughts on Sandy's comments there or questions there?
Yeah, so the replacement is just going to be in kind, like replacing a deck
Correct.
that's
Yeah.
going to be the same as what's existing.
Same size and everything. Yeah.
Yeah. And it's a non-contributing building?
Correct. With non-contributing within the district.
I mean, it seems like it'd be okay to me. It's not really going to alter the appearance of the building.
No, and there's been significant changes to the building. I mean, the from the photos I've seen, the railing that's on there, I don't know, is the railing?
The railing,
There's-
the deck material.
There's been some modifications made, you know,
Stairs.
throughout the years, but you know, we felt that it was a minor alteration, but did want to bring it in front of you. We do think that it's, you know, I think this one is like a multi-family development, so it's, you know, one thing, property owner with the building, I think is one consideration, but then once you start adding tenants into it and you start talking about safety of stairways and things like that, we just wanted to make sure we're taking this through the right process.
So being new, I guess I'm always wondering about people. They say they're going to do something, then they do something else. Is there in your process, like, do you follow up and make sure that they did what they said they're going to do and didn't get sideways on us, or?
So they do submit the application, and we look at it and approve it based on what we're being told. And we could go do a site visit. And
Is that normal?
I mean, I haven't processed them in the Dalles to be able to answer that question. Normally, on a land use planning side of the house, whenever we have projects that are reviewed and there's conditions of approval, let's say you have to have landscaping and all this and that, and striping and the design of a structure, the normal route is to go out as a project planner and do the inspections and make sure they're meeting everything as approved per the site plan, typically before a final inspection, let's say, is done by the building department. Something that we can say, oh, hold on a minute, you still have to finish this. Don't issue the business license or don't do the final inspection yet. You have conditions to meet. So on the historic preservation side of the house, I would approach it from probably the same angle, if that's our practice here, to make sure they're upholding what they said they would do.
Yeah, thank you.
You're welcome.
Can I make another request? I have requested for several months or several meetings, not month, but meetings, that each and every member of this commission, Scott is entitled to it, Julie's entitled to it. We should have some sort of a copy of the ordinance that we function under, so that new people on the committee are answered their questions by reading the ordinance of what we have and what we can do and what we can't do, and so on and so forth. I think it's very important that for new people coming in to realize that we are only an advisory committee in a sense. We can be questioned at city council. We can be questioned at several steps of the way if whatever our decisions are being made. So I think we ought to understand why. And so I'm going to put that request in again, Sandy.
Okay.
I'll
send out the
Something
Title
that-
11 chapter that deals with what I'm looking at here to the members.
It is. I don't want something that highlights.
It'll be double-sided. And on the
Okay.
computer, but we'll mail you a paper copy.
Drink it down. But
Okay.
Eric and I have even talked about it because we both been here too long or long enough or whatever. But we kind of got a feel, but we've learned somewhat by the hard way with a knock on the head that you don't do this, and you can't do this. So unless someone has something that I have missed, it must be getting close to cocktail time. Would
Well,
somebody make a motion that we retire?
I wouldn't mind responding to your request. And I think in your poll,
Yeah, I'd
Like-
like to know some
Yeah, yeah.
direction or get some
just
direction
my
rather.
own opinion would be if they're doing the same
Yeah.
size and materials and all
Mhm.
that, and it is a safety issue when there's tenants, potentially kids, I think we should be reasonable and
Okay,
help them get that done sooner than later.
okay,
I
Thank
agree
you, I
with
appreciate
Commissioner
that.
Eric.
okay.
So I'm
Great,
still
thank
waiting
you.
for a motion.
I just had one last question for staff. Is there a new fifth voting member now on the commission? Or are we still trying to?
Tom Jamay.
Oh, I don't see the name. I'm sorry.
I was kind of joking. He's absent today. But yes, we do. Tom Jamay
Okay.
is the owner of the workshop building, as well as the American Legion building.
Thank you.
You bet.
I will make a motion for adjournment.
If I hear a second, it's great. If I don't, we're still adjourned. So we're going from there. Thank you all.
Yeah, thank
I'll
you all.
second.
Appreciate it. Thank you, Paul.
Thanks, Eric.
Thank you.
Thanks, Paul.
Yep, thanks. Bye.